Welcome to my channel. I have a question for you. Do you recall your first English sentence? Mine was just 3 words, but those 3 words altered the course of my life. They made me brave. They opened a door. In this video, I'm going to walk you through that transition, from silence to speech, from fear to confidence. My story is plain, but perhaps it's yours as well. So stay with me. You can perhaps use your own opening sentence here. Chapter 1. The day I learned to talk. It was a normal afternoon. The sun was hot. The road was busy. My sister and I walked to the fruit shop. We wanted to buy mangoes. The store was small and crowded with colors. Baskets held oranges, bananas, apples, and grapes. My sister had a chat with the shopkeeper. I stood silent at her side, looking around. I had no idea that something huge was about to happen. Something small, but large to me. A man entered the shop. He looked different. His skin was light. His hair was golden. He had on sunglasses and was clutching a piece of paper. He ambled along, glancing left and right. He looked confused. He said something to the shopkeeper, but the shopkeeper smiled and wagged his head. He didn't understand. Then the man looked at me. He gave me a small smile and asked, "Excuse me, do you speak English?" My heart jumped. My hands felt cold. My mouth was dry. I wanted to answer, but I was afraid. What if I have misspoken? What if it was lost on me? My mind was full of fear. But I also remembered another thing. I had been rehearsing one sentence in my mind over and over and over. Just one sentence. I gazed at him and said, "Yes, a little." That was it. Just 3 words. But those 3 words did something to me. The man's face relaxed. He smiled again. Then, "Where's the nearest bus stop?" My heart beat faster again. I knew the answer, but I didn't know all the words in English. I looked at my sister. She didn't speak English. I looked at the man again. I wanted to help. So I tried. I thought slowly. I told him, "Keep straight now. Turn left. Bus stop near the bank." The man listened carefully. He smiled again. "Thank you very much," he said. And I said, "You're welcome." He walked out of the shop. I stood still. I could hear my own heart in my ears. My sister's eyes were wide when she looked at me. "You spoke English," she said. I nodded. My voice was trembling, but I told her, "Yes." I spoke English. I cannot forget that moment. It was short, only 2 small sentences, but it was the first time that I ever had a proper conversation in English. No teacher, no classroom, no test. One moment in life, and somehow I put my English to use. I was smiling all night that night. I felt something new. I felt strong. I felt free. I felt proud. I told my parents. I told my friends. I told my teacher. Everyone was happy. But indoors, I was happiest. I didn't sleep that night, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I heard the same words again and again. "Excuse me, do you speak English?" And my response, "Yes, a bit." Small words, big gift, confidence. I learned something important. I don't need to be perfect. I don't need long words. I don't want a large vocabulary. I just need to speak. Something changed after that day. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to speak more. I began to listen to English songs. I am watching short English videos. I would read the easy English stories. I jotted new words in a notebook. I practiced with my sister. We told each other easy miniature stories such as, "What is your name? How are you? What do you like?" Each day I spoke in English, even one sentence, even one word, but I said it. I used it. And I thought of my first sentence. Yes, a little. That was a little key of a sentence. It opened a big door. It let me know that I could say it. I could try. I was allowed to get things wrong and then learn from them. I didn't need to listen for perfect English. The sore loser. I had to use what English I knew. Sometimes I think, man, if I would have kept my mouth shut in that shop, maybe my journey would be very different. Oh no, honey, I think it actually would have been way worse. Perhaps I would still be frightened. Maybe I would still be waiting to get a word in edgewise, a blink of an eye for some, for those others a lifetime. But I didn't stay silent. I said something. And that changed everything. So if you are watching this and you are scared to use your voice, I see you. I was scared too. But what I learned is that bravery is not the absence of fear. Courage is talking when you have a fast-beating heart, even when they're cold, even when you're speaking with a trembling voice. Bravery is trying. You don't need a big plan. You don't have to have perfect English. You just need one sentence. Your first sentence. That is the start of your path. My first sentence was, yes, a bit. You have your first sentence. Chapter 2. My first job speaking English. After my opening line in the fruit shop, something in me awoke. I wasn't afraid of English anymore. Then I came to like it more and more. And that began with small sentences at home, with my sister and with my teacher. I listened to the English language music, tried to say the words, and watched the cartoons in English. I didn't get up to date with everything, but I enjoyed it. I felt curious. I felt ready for more. One day I got back to sleep, but my sister must have woken up to use the bathroom and heard strange noises and went to investigate, and then told me, "There is a cafe near the school. They need a helper. You can try." I was surprised. Me? A job? In English? It was nervy, but I was also really nervous. I said, "Okay, I will try." The following morning, I had on a clean shirt. I combed my hair. I walked to the cafe, a tiny spot with 10 tables, warm lighting, and fresh bread smells. The manager appeared to be in her 40s. She smiled when I entered. "Good morning," she said. I said, "Good morning." "Are you Ronnie?" she asked. "Yes, I am," I replied. She nodded. "Come, I'll show you around." She led me through the cafe. She showed me the counter, the kitchen, the coffee machine, and the stand with trays on it. "You'll take orders, you'll bring food, and you'll clean off the tables," she said. "Don't worry, we will help you." I smiled and said, "Okay. Thank you." That was my first day. I was scared. I didn't know many words. People spoke quickly. People came in and said, "Can I have a cappuccino?" Or, "Is the blueberry muffin fresh?" Or, "What's on the lunch menu today?" I didn't get it at first. I glanced at my coworkers for support. One of them, a boy named Tom, was very kind. "Don't worry, you'll learn fast." I hung on every word he said. I watched him take orders. I observed how he smiled, how he said, "Here you go," or "Enjoy your meal." I copied him. The first time a customer ever talked to a girl, I was scared. It was an older woman. "I'll have a black coffee and a muffin, please," she said. In a slow whisper, I repeated, "One black coffee, one muffin." She smiled and said, "Yes." I had brought the food and set it on her table. I said, "Here you are." She said, "Thank you." I said, "You're welcome." It felt big to me, that small moment. I used English in real life, not in school, not from a book, but with a real person. I began to take 1 or 2 new words a day. Words such as tray, napkin, order, bill, receipt, and menu. I didn't scribble them down in a notebook. I kept hearing them, and I kept hearing them. And I remembered them because I used them. "Is that a takeaway?" One of the customers asked if it was a takeaway. I asked Tom later, "What is takeaway?" "That is them taking it and running with it." I said, "Okay." Next time, I use the word, "Eat here or take away?" I asked a customer. Smiling, he said, "Take away." I felt happy. English was all over the cafe. It was there, on the menu, in the conversations, and in the little signs. Every moment was an opportunity to gain knowledge. Every sentence was practice. Even wiping the table was all Englishy. Who'd say, "Table 3 is done," and I'd go wipe it. One afternoon, a young man entered the room. I took his order. I spoke slowly and clearly. He glanced at me and told me I spoke well in English. I felt warm inside. For a single sentence, I felt really proud of myself. I replied, "Thank you, I'm studying." Later that same day, I told my sister. She smiled and said, "See? You are doing it." I told my teacher, too. "This is how you learn, with real people, real places, and real words," she said. I came home exhausted and happy every night. I would have to write them, and then I would just sit on my bed thinking about the words that I learned. I would think about the tiny talk. Sometimes I made mistakes. I meant to say receipt when I said menu, or I forgot to say please. But no one laughed at me. They corrected me kindly, and I learned. And I realized something. I was not studying English. I was living it. I wasn't memorizing words. I was using them. I wasn't waiting for perfect grammar. I was talking. This was a new type of learning for me. At school, it is mostly textbooks we read. But in the cafe, every minute was a master class. Every customer was a teacher. Every question was a test, and I loved it. And one day a customer asked, "Do you have almond milk?" I didn't know what it was. I asked Tom. He showed me a small carton. I said, "Ah, almond milk." When the next person asked, I knew the answer. I said, "Yes, we have." I smiled. They smiled. For me, these little triumphs brought great delight. I learned that vocabulary doesn't exist in books. It lives in moments. When someone says, "Enjoy your meal," and you say, "Thank you," you're learning the real English, the English of life. That cafe was my school. My colleagues were my collaborators. My clients were my teachers. And every day, I was a little bit more fluent in English. If you are studying English, I have something to say to you. Los Angeles. The moment may never be right. Do not wait to complete the grammar book. Just use your English. Speak, listen, repeat, copy. Listen to the world. It's better than any textbook, better than any coffee table book, better even than any online slideshow. A cafe, a shop, a friend. I started with fear. I had only a few words to begin with, but I kept going. And then one day, a stranger said, "Your English is good." That made all the difference. That made me think, I can do this. And you can too. Chapter 3. My first confident day speaking. It was the beginning of a new morning, but something was different. I woke up before my alarm. I felt excited. I also felt nervous, and it wasn't my first day on the job today. Yet it was my first day of needing to speak with authority. Not just speak, but to do so clearly, calmly, and proudly. I wanted people to get me. I wanted to have fun speaking English, not be afraid of it. The day before, my teacher mentioned something called shadowing. It's the equivalent of copying a voice, she said. You hear someone in English and then you say it. Same words, same rhythm, same sound. I was like, that's interesting. I want to try it. So I picked up my phone. I sought out a brief video. Easy English conversation. Ordering coffee. I found one. A woman was buying a coffee at a cafe. She spoke slowly and clearly. You've seen 120 seconds of video. Perfect. I played the video. I listened. Then I spoke after her. Hey, can I get a coffee, please? I said it with her. I copied her voice. I copied her speed. I copied her smile. I did it again and again. 5 times. 10 times. The next time, I felt a little bit more confident. Then I looked in the mirror. I played the video again. I watched her mouth. I watched my mouth. I said the words with her. Yes, I'd like a muffin too. I spoke slowly. I didn't rush. I liked how I sounded. I liked how my face looked. I felt proud. I felt ready. I reached the cafe. The odor of coffee pervaded the room. The gentle clatter of cups and clinking spoons, and the simple soundtrack of low music made me feel calm. My manager smiled at me. Ronnie, you'll work the counter today, she added, and I said, okay, I'll try my best. The first customer came. She glanced at the menu and made her request, cappuccino, please? I smiled and replied, yes, 1 cappuccino. I spoke slowly and clearly. She understood. I handed her the coffee, and I'd tell her, here you go, enjoy your drink. She smiled and replied, thank you. I felt like a winner in that little moment. Another customer came. He was a young man in a suit. He looked tired. I said, good morning. What would you like today? He smiled at me and said, your English is quite clear. I paused. I didn't expect that. I smiled in return and replied, "Thank you. I'm learning." He said, "Keep going. You're doing great." Then he ordered a latte. Those words, "Your English is really clear," they were magic. They gave me power. They gave me joy. They gave me wings. I felt taller. I stood straighter. I smiled more. All day I was talking in that voice I had practiced. I remembered the shadowing. I slowed down when I spoke. I thought about each word. I said, "Would you like sugar?" And "to stay or take away." I said, "Have a nice day," and "see you again." My voice felt stronger. My words felt natural. I went home that night. I was tired but happy. I took a deep breath, opened my notebook, and jotted down one sentence. Today somebody said my English is clear. I underlined the word clear. I felt like I had passed a test. Not a school test, but a life test. I sat on my bed and opened the video yet again. I shadowed again. I listened and repeated. I recorded it, my voice, and I'd hear myself. I found a small mistake in these 3 places. I tried again. I beamed at myself in the mirror. Shadowing was chatting with a friend. The speaker on the video was my silent teacher, and I was her student. I copied her again and again. Not just the words, but the sensation. Calm, clear, confident. The next day at school, our teacher asked, "Did anyone attempt to shadow?" I raised my hand. I said, "Yeah, I made one with a coffee video." She smiled and said, "Great, did it help?" I said, "Yes." Some man told me, "You speak English clearly." She clapped. My classmates clapped too. Then we did a small activity. We heard a sentence and we echoed a sentence. We had some pronunciation sessions. We laughed. We learned. My friend from Brazil said, "You pronounce this better now." I said, "Thank you. I practiced a lot." I later shared the shadowing strategy with him. He said, "I will try it too." I felt happy. I was not just learning. I was sharing. The first thing that I did that same night was watch another video. A story of a cat and a boy. I did shadowing again. This time I paid attention to the speaker's emotions. When the boy was terrified, the sound was gentle. When the boy was worked up, the voice was rapid. I ripped off everything, the words, the sound, and the mood. Time for a lesson. Pronunciation is not tongue and lips. It's about feeling. It's about emotion. It's about communicating from the heart. I must have talked to 100 people that week. Some were easy to understand. Some spoke fast. But I didn't panic. I listened. I took a breath. I answered slowly. With each passing day, I felt more self-assured, and it began with a tiny step, watching a short video and talking afterward. That one action transformed how I viewed myself. I was not just a learner now. I was a speaker. I was not perfect, but I was proud. I say this. When you want to speak English with confidence, I just want to tell you, you don't need a special class. You don't even require expensive tools. All that's required is your ears, your mouth, and your voice. Listen, repeat, shadow, practice, try, smile. Confidence is not a gift. It's the thing you construct, one word at a time, one sentence at a time, one courageous moment at a time. So, you. Step in front of the mirror, pick a video, speak after it. Don't worry about mistakes, just speak. One day, somebody is going to look at you and say, "Your English is good." And that moment, believe me, will be etched in your heart forever. Chapter 4. Learning Grammar. Without studying rules. This was my answer. Grammar used to scare me. I didn't like grammar books. I wasn't a fan of big words like present perfect or past continuous. Every time I opened a grammar book, I was met with cryptic tables and endless rules. I didn't understand them. I felt sleepy. I felt small. I told myself, perhaps I will never learn grammar. But something happened once I stopped straining to memorize rules and instead began to notice real English. On one Sunday morning, I was sitting in my room. It was quiet. I didn't have work that day. I didn't have school either. But I wanted to do something in English. I took my phone and opened a short English story. I discovered one. It was about a boy and his dog. Its title was Max and the Rainy Day. The story was simple. It had short sentences. I started to read. Max plays with his dog every morning, it read. Then beyond that, yesterday Max was playing with his dog in the rain. I stopped. I read it again. Plays and played. I didn't study it. I just noticed. That's what it's called when you say something in the past. You add ed. It felt easy. It made sense. I kept reading. He is a nice boy, said the narrative. Later, he felt sad when his dog got wet. Again, I noticed. Is becomes was. The present becomes the past. I didn't write it down. I didn't look for a rule. But my mind said, okay, I see it now. That one story with its grammar and context taught me more than a chapter in a book. And of course, I didn't try to study. I simply read and observed. I wanted to take more that day. So I opened another story. This one was a story about a girl who goes to see her grandma. I noticed more examples. She goes to the village every year, and then spends last summer with a younger brother. Then I realize go is becoming went. It's not goed, it's went. I didn't try to remember it, I just saw it. My brain took a picture, a soft picture, no pressure. In the afternoon, I visited the cafe. I worked my normal shift. I talked to customers. I said, "What would you like today?" I said, "Here is your receipt." These were simple, short sentences, but they made me feel something inside. It was a slow but sure type of thing. My grammar was coming along one little piece at a time, much like a puzzle. Not by force, but by feel. As the week went on, I would narrate parts of my day in English. I stood in front of the mirror and spoke. Today is Wednesday. I wake up at 7. I go to work. I speak with customers. I eat lunch at 1. I come home at 6. So I tried talking about the day before. Yesterday was Tuesday. I woke up at 7. I went to work. I spoke with customers. I ate lunch. I came home. I didn't think about rules. I didn't open a grammar book. I only went by what I heard, what I read, and what I could see. My brain was learning incrementally, without pain. The following day at school, something magical occurred. "Let's play a grammar quiz today," said our teacher. The room laughed and said, "Oh no." But I smiled. I was prepared, intending not to cram, but to live the grammar. She gave us sentences. We had to say whether they were in the past or present. "She walks to school," I said, present. "He played football yesterday," I said, past. "They eat lunch now," I said, present. "We saw a film last night," I said, past. My answers were fast. My answers were correct. The teacher winked at me and smiled. "You're doing a lot better, Ronnie," she said. My classmates turned to look at me as well. I smiled, not because I was the greatest, but because I was learning on my own terms. My teacher showed up for me after class. "You didn't like grammar before, did you?" she asked. I said, "That was my fear of it." She chuckled softly and added, "But you learn so prettily. How did you do it?" I said, "I read stories. I listen to people. I don't study. I just noticed." She nodded. "That's just what you have to do sometimes. As children, we never learned grammar rules. We just heard them. And we learned. That made me feel good. It made me feel light. I wasn't lugging around large grammar books. I had little stories in my heart. And those stories were teaching me. That night, I mentioned this to my sister. She said, "Wow, you didn't even study." I was like, "Sure, but I noticed things." She smiled and added, "I wonder if I would try your way too." So we sat down and read another story. This time it was a tale of two friends who get lost in a forest. We laughed. We took turns asking each other questions. "Oh," I said, "what did they do yesterday?" "They walked in the forest," she said. "What do they do every day?" I said. "They're going to school," she said. We were talking about grammar, without ever using the word grammar. That night I experienced a novelty. Grammar is not the enemy. It's not something to fight. It's something to watch, to touch, to listen to, and to use. Like music, like rhythm, like steps in a dance. Now I read a tiny story every day, just 10 minutes. I don't look for rules. I look for patterns. I don't test myself. I speak to myself. I talk about my day. I talk about yesterday. I say things such as, "I am so happy today. I was tired yesterday. I go to school. I went to the cafe. I eat now. I ate earlier. And I enjoy it." No books, no stress, just me and my voice and what I see and hear. If you're learning English and grammar feels confusing, let me say this to you. You don't need to memorize any rules. You don't have to feel scared. Just read a little every day. Listen. Speak about your life. Pay attention to the little things. Walk, walked. Is, was. Eat, ate. Let grammar and vocabulary grow in you like a plant. Water it with stories. Secure it with small talk. Touch it with your voice. Let it bloom slowly. Someday, someone is going to give you a grammar test. The point is, you will smile because you know already. You didn't study it. You lived it. And that is the most natural way to be educated. Chapter 5. Talking to Myself, My Private Classroom. It began quietly, like a joke. It was one morning when I was brushing my hair and looking at myself in the mirror, and I said it out loud, "Good morning, Ronnie." Then I laughed. I had never done that. Spoken English to myself. It felt strange, but there was something about it that made me smile. So I did it again the next day, and again the next. Soon it became my habit. A private, hushed classroom, a teacher who was also a student. I didn't plan it. I didn't read it in a book. But after seeing a video in which a girl declared, "Talk to yourself to learn faster," I figured, why not? I had no one to run with in the mornings. My sister was still asleep. My classmates were far away. But I had my voice. I had my thoughts. And that was enough. I just talked the first couple of days, little things. "It's sunny today. I'm hungry. I have to go to work." Very short, very simple, but I said them out loud. I didn't whisper. I used a full voice. I stood before the mirror. I saw my mouth move. I heard my English. One day, I thought a thought. "What time is it?" And without so much as pausing, I responded, "It's 7:30. That little moment shocked me. I experienced a little jolt, in a good way. I had created a question. I had answered it. I hadn't been reading from a book. I was not copying anyone. It came from me. That was the first time I felt such true pride in my English. It was not a big sentence, but it was mine. It came from inside me. From that day forward, I began to ask more questions. I continued, "Who will you play with today?" I replied, "I am going to work. I will talk to customers." I asked, "How do you feel?" I said, "I feel happy, a little sleepy, but happy." "What did you do yesterday?" I asked. I said, "I went to school. I watched a video. I learned 5 new words." It was as if I was speaking with a friend you could always depend on, a buddy who never laughed at me when I screwed up, a friend who let me have her ear. On occasion, I posed in front of the mirror. At other times, I paced my way around the house, muttering to myself. I said, "This is my chair. That is the window. The fan is on. I am making tea." Everything became a sentence. Every action became a lesson. I didn't have to wait for the perfect sentence. I wasn't saying to myself, "Is this right grammar?" I just spoke. I used what I knew. If I didn't know the word, I used a simpler word. If I didn't know what a word was, I didn't use it, or I said what I wanted to say another way. Gradually, I discovered something lovely. My English sped up. My tongue moved more easily. My brain didn't pause to translate. My words flowed. I wasn't just speaking. I was thinking in English. It started, at first, just in the mornings, and then I started doing it at night as well. I would lie in bed and whisper to myself before sleeping. Today was good. I helped 3 customers. One of them thanked me twice. I said, "Have a nice day." There were times I smiled in the dark. I was not alone. English was with me. One night my sister passed by my room. She heard me talking. She said, "Who are you talking to?" I said, "To myself." She laughed and replied, "You sound like a bonkers Englishman." We both laughed, but I didn't stop, and I said, "This is how I like to practice." She took me by the earring and slapped my ear, and then later she began doing it. In her room, I overheard her saying, "My name is Priya. I live in India. I love books." It made me smile. My classroom, just mine, had expanded. Now it had 2 students. Sometimes I would envision I was making a speech. I stood up and said, "Hello, everyone. My name is Ronnie. Today, I will tell you about what I do for a living." At other moments, I pretended to talk to someone. "I'm going by bus," and I looked at the concierge and I said, "Please, where is the bus stop?" Then I replied, "Go straight. Turn left. It's near the bank." I played both roles. It was like playing this thing, even a game that made me grow. And the best part, I didn't feel nervous. There was no one to judge me, no one to correct me, no one to say, "It's wrong." I corrected myself. I encouraged myself. I became my own cheerleader. It was this habit that changed everything. The sentences came easier, I found, when I went to work. When someone addressed something to me, I was a quicker responder. I didn't choke when my teachers called on me in class. Already, I was used to speaking, every day, at home, to myself. And then I began to record my voice. I would talk about my room, or about what I was going to do, or about something in the news. Then I listened. I heard my mistakes. I also heard of my progress. My voice sounded better. My words were clearer. My confidence grew. Now, talking to yourself is one of the easiest ways to learn English, I think. You don't need money. You don't need a teacher. You don't need a partner. You just need your own voice. If you are shy, it's okay. You don't need to shout. You can speak softly. 1 sentence a day will do. Say, "I am hungry." Say, "I like music." Say, "It is hot today." Then, ask a question. Answer it. Create your own world with words. And the next time you think it's strange, just remember, every great speaker used to talk to themselves. Silliness is a quality common to all language learners. All great stories have humble beginnings. My first step was, "Good morning, Ronnie." Now I can discuss my day, my dreams, and my thoughts in English. So go to your mirror, look at yourself, smile, say something, anything. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to begin. Your own classroom is just a wait, and the star student in that room is you. Chapter 6. The Power of the Short Chat. One afternoon, I was out on break, leaning up against the front of the cafe. The sun was warm. A cold breeze caressed my cheeks. I had 10 minutes. I glanced at the road, where people were walking, talking, and flowing like a river. Then I saw a guy with a map, twisting it left and right, searching the sides in confusion. I took a step forward and said, "Excuse me, can I help you?" His expression registered surprise, and then he smiled. "Yes, please. I'm looking for the museum." That was it. Just a short question, but it started something. I said, "It's up by the post office. Go straight, then turn right." He nodded. "Thank you. Are you from here?" I said, "Yes, I work in that cafe." He smiled. "Your English is good." That made me feel so happy. The conversation was brief, maybe 1 minute, maybe two, but it felt huge. I helped someone. I spoke clearly. I got his meaning the whole way through. I didn't prepare. I didn't plan. I just spoke. I learned something important that day. Short conversations have power. I think we always think we have to talk for 10 minutes, or we have to know 100 big words, or we have to talk exactly right. But we don't. Lesson. A 2-minute conversation can instruct more and better than 2 hours of grammar class. Why? Because it's real. Because it's alive. It's because it makes your heart beat faster. One of those times, I encountered a girl in my English class. Her name was Aisha. She was from another town. She sat next to me. One day I said, "Hi, where are you from?" She smiled and said, "I'm from Jaipur." "And you?" I said, "I'm from here." We kept talking, just small things. "Do you like this class?" "Yes, the teacher is nice." "Do you watch English films?" "Yes, I like cartoons." We laughed. We didn't speak for long, not much more than 3 or 4 minutes. But those minutes were gold. In those few moments, I also learned to ask and to answer. I was also taught how to listen and react. I'd found my voice, how to speak without being afraid. Aisha and I were friends afterwards. We communicated in English for our entire conversation, occasionally just for a few minutes before class. "How are you?" "I'm fine." "What did you do yesterday?" "I went to the market." Simple, but so useful. One day she told me an English joke. I didn't get it for the longest time. Then she explained it. I laughed so hard, she laughed with me. Not at me, with me. That was the spike. That was the magic. We shared joy in English. We were using English to reach each other. It was not perfect. My grammar was not perfect. I'm as stiff as wood. The pronunciation isn't spot on. But our smiles were real. Our laughter was real. Our friendship was real. And the English? That was real too. Sometimes a customer at the cafe says, "Nice weather today." I say, "Yes, very sunny." Just that. 2 lines. But each time I do it, I feel stronger. English is something I feel is part of me. One day, that tourist walked into the cafe. He was from Italy. He ordered tea. I said, "Do you want milk?" He said, "No, thank you." Then he added, "You have very beautiful natural English." I grinned. I speak a little every day. "Best way to do it," he said. We talked for 1 minute. Then he left. Just a brief chat again. But that sentence, "Your English is very natural," haunted me all day. I didn't read that in a book. I learned it from speaking. Today I try to have one brief conversation a day. At work, at school, at the shop. Even just a, "Hello, how are you?" Even just a, "Nice to meet you." It adds up. It builds. It grows. I walked through the nearest park one evening. A lad was at play with a ball. He kicked it too far. I picked it up and returned it. He said, "Thank you." I said, "You're welcome. Be careful." He laughed and said, "Okay." I walked away smiling. It was a tiny moment, 5 seconds maybe, but it felt epic to me. I was speaking English to someone I did not know. I used it like a tool, like a smile, like a bridge. Occasionally I believe that we are a little late to the party. I'll speak up when I'm ready. I'll speak when I know more. But here's the truth. You prepare by talking. You learn more by working from what you already have. A brief exchange of ideas is not small. It is powerful. It is real practice. It's like a test and a lesson and a reward, all wrapped up in one. Now, when I enter a room, I also look for an opportunity to say something. Just one sentence, just one question. I don't wait to be perfect. I just speak. And every time I do, I grow. And here's what I want to say to you if you're studying English. Don't wait for the big conversation. Start with small ones. 2 minutes with a friend, 1 minute with a stranger, 10 seconds with yourself. That is enough. You do not require a robust vernacular. Long lessons in grammar aren't what you need. You need real words, real feelings, real reactions. And when someone laughs with you in English, not at you, but with you, you will know something profound. English is much more than a language. It's a way to connect, a way to feel close, a space to share moments that are important. So today, say one small thing in English, ask one small question, give one small answer, and smile. Because quick chats are not quick. They are the start of something big. Chapter 7. First English Friend. It was a Monday morning, and I sat quietly at my desk in school, waiting for the teacher. I was early, as always. I preferred to precede the din before the crowd. I looked around the room. A new student walked in. He was nervous, just like I was on my first day. He sat next to me. I smiled and said, "Hello." He seemed taken aback, and then a smile spread across his face. "Hello?" he said. "I'm Arif." I said, "I'm Ronnie." That was the start. We didn't talk much at first. We were both shy. We both made mistakes, but both of us wanted to learn English. That was our connection. One day I said, "Where are you from?" "From a village nearby," he said. I said, "Oh, I live in the town." He nodded. "This is my first class in English," he said. I said, "Mine too." Then we smiled. From that chit-chat, a friendship was born. We didn't plan it. It just happened. We lingered every day after class. We would ask each other bullshit questions. What did you eat for lunch? How was your weekend? Do you like cricket? There were times when we didn't even have the words. We stopped. We laughed. We guessed. We helped each other. When I did not have a word, I asked Arif. Sometimes he knew it, sometimes he didn't. So we Googled it together. "Oh, does this mean this?" he would say. I would say, "Ah, thank you." When he would say something wrong, I would give him a smile and correct him softly. I made a mistake and he went after me. No judgment, only help. We'd formed our little English club, just the two of us. One day, I took some script I had written. I gave it to Arif. He read it slowly. Then he said, "Very nice, but here you might say went, not goed." I laughed. Yes, yes, you're right. Then he said, and this line is fantastic. She smiled and walked away. Very good. I felt proud. Somebody was reading my English and helping me fix it. It felt real. It felt like I was growing. The next week, Arif brought his homework. Can you look at this? I read it and said, nice work, but maybe I have a book, as opposed to I has a book. He chuckled and added, yeah, I always forget about that. We learned together. We made mistakes together. But more than anything, we inspired each other. We also dry ran short conversations sometimes. I'd say, you're the customer, I'm the waiter, and we'd act out a scene. Hi, sir, what would you like? I want tea and a biscuit. Here you are. Thank you. It was fun. We laughed a lot. We forgot we were learning. We were just speaking. After a few weeks, we noticed something. We no longer switched to our native language. We spoke only English, not because we had to, but because we could. We went to the market one day after class. We spoke throughout, in English, far from perfect, but full of meaning. I explained my work at the cafe to him. He told me about his family. I told him that someday I hope to travel. His dream, he said, was to teach children. We paused just at the corner. He glanced at me and said, you know what? I said, what? This is our first complete conversation in English. No Hindi. We both laughed. We both felt proud. That was the spike. That was the moment. I never imagined I could have a full conversation in English. Not without help. Not without translation. But I did. We did. And it was practice, 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 because of friendship. From that day, we began receiving texts from one another in English as well. Good morning. See you at class. I got a good video. Check this out. We passed around links to short English clips. We spent time pronouncing together. We shadowed videos. We challenged each other. Use 5 new words today. Tell me a story in English. Go for 1 minute without pausing. Our English grew faster together than it ever did apart. One day, our teacher looks at us. You two are always helping each other, he says. We nodded. She said, that's wonderful. Keep doing that. When you practice with a friend, you learn faster and smile more. We smiled. It was when I made an English friend that everything changed for me. Before Arif, I felt shy. I spoke very little. I didn't know if I was pronouncing things right. But I wasn't alone with Arif. I had someone to talk to. A person who had been there. A person who made learning fun. We didn't need to be perfect. We just needed to try, and we did every day. If you are learning English, here is what I want to tell you. Find a friend. Get with the program and find somebody else who is learning like you. Talk to them. Help them. Let them help you. You don't need a big group. It takes only one person to have a huge impact. Speak about your day. Correct each other kindly. Share jokes. Share mistakes. Share progress. For a friend can turn fear into a joke and failure into progress. Arif was not only my classmate. He was my English mirror. My English partner. My first English friend. and in his presence, English ceased to be a subject. It became a connection, a bridge, a joy. That's the true magic of language, not the words, but the people, relationships as well as rules. That and how to, occasionally, speak from the heart. Chapter 8. The day I, for the first time, directed someone. It was a normal afternoon. I was on my way home from school with my little notepad and a bottle of water. The sun was not too hot. The wind was soft. The road was quiet. I walked, thinking of the new words we had learned in class: across, beside, opposite, and between. We were studying places and ways to talk about where things are. I was rehearsing to myself, the bank is across from the school, the hospital is beside the park, and the cafe is between the bookstore and the bakery. I liked these sentences. They felt useful. Then I heard a voice. A man said, "Excuse me?" I turned. A tourist stood on the sidewalk, but he was tall, and in one hand he was wielding a phone, and in the other a map. His eyes seemed a bit fatigued, perhaps bewildered. He smiled calmly and inquired, "Where can I find the post office?" For a minute I just examined him, and suddenly it all came back to me. A memory. A fruit shop. A nervous boy. A foreign man inquired, "Do you speak English?" My heart is beating fast. Me saying, "Yes, a little." That was months ago. That was the first sentence I ever uttered in English. Now, here I was again. Same situation, same kind of person, but I was not the same. I smiled and I said, "Yes, I know." The post office is close to the large mosque. Turn right up here, take the second left, and keep walking past the market. You will see the mosque ahead on your right. Across the street from it is the post office. Listening intently, he then grinned widely and added, "Thank you." That's very clear. I said, "You're welcome. It's about a 10-minute walk." He said, "Great." "Thank you again." I nodded. "Have a nice day." He turned and walked away, and for a few seconds I just watched him leave. Then it dawned on me. I'd just delivered full directions. Not short, not broken, not scared. Clear, confident, full instructions. No shaking hands, no fast heartbeat, no fear. Something seemed to stir in me, something deep. I felt proud. It was just a little instant, but it made me realize something huge. I had changed. In Chapter 1, I was scared. I used only 2 sentences. My voice was soft. I was unsure. But today I held my head high. My voice was calm. My words came easily. I didn't think about grammar. I didn't pause to look for words. I just spoke. And it worked. I kept walking, but my mind was back there. I thought, this is proof. I have improved. I have my English not just in my head now. I have it in my mouth. It's in my heart. I felt group deprivation something fierce. I remembered how much it sucked in the beginning, how I rehearsed in the mirror, how I made silly mistakes. The way I talked to myself was like I was a child, how I was taught grammar by stories, how I mimicked sentences from videos, how I forged habits, one day at a time. And now, this. I smiled to myself. This was more than just giving directions. This was a test, a life test, and I had passed it. Later that night, I shared it with my sister. I said, "Guess what? I just helped a tourist today, again." "Oh," she said, "like the first time?" "This time, I did it." I said, "Yeah, but I wasn't nervous this time. I gave full directions." She smiled. "That means you are getting better." I said, "Yes." I feel it now, not just at school, but at life. I wrote in my notepad that night. I noted everything I said to the tourist. I read it out loud. I smiled as I read it. It was good English. It was mine. So I added one more sentence at the bottom. "This is the way I know that I am growing." You don't always notice progress. Sometimes it feels slow. At times it seems nothing is changing. And then, one day, something small does happen. You are asked a question by a tourist, and suddenly, you've got it. You don't just say words, you speak, you connect, you help, you feel powerful. And if you're learning English, here's something to consider. The first sentence is a starting point. You may feel nervous now. You may speak slowly. You may only use a few words. But keep going. Someday, you will get another opportunity. The same scenario will happen. I know because it happened to me. And that day, you'll feel the difference. You'll think, "I'm different now. I have grown. I can speak.